Excellency, the Prime Minister of Australia, Honourable Prime Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to today's signing ceremony, where 4 documents will be signed. We will first proceed to sign the Memorandum of Understanding on Cooperation in the Wool Sector. The signatory from the Australian side is His Excellency Mr. Peter Verghese, High Commissioner of Australia to India, and from the Indian side, Srimati Kiran Dhingra, Secretary, Ministry of Textiles. We will now proceed to sign the Memorandum of Understanding on Student Mobility and Welfare. The signatory from the Australian side is His Excellency Mr. Peter Verghese, High Commissioner of Australia to India, and from the Indian side, Shri Ashok Thakur, Secretary, Ministry of Human Resource Development. We will now proceed to sign the Memorandum of Understanding on Space. The signatory from the Australian side is His Excellency Mr. Peter Verghese, High Commissioner of Australia to India, and from the Indian side, Dr. K. Radhakrishnan, Secretary, Department of Space, and Chairman of the Indian Space Research Organisation. Finally, we will sign the Memorandum of Understanding on Skills Development. The signatory from the Australian side is Mr. Ray Barker, Chair of Skills DMC, Australia's Mining Industry Skills Council, and from the Indian side, Shri Dilip Chinoy, CEO, the National Skills and Development Corporation. This concludes the signing ceremony.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, I welcome you to this media event. We will begin with opening remarks. I request the Prime Minister of India to make his opening remarks.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister Gillard, ladies and gentlemen of the media, it's a great honor for me to welcome Prime Minister Gillard on our first state visit to our country. Relations between India and Australia are characterized by expanding and deepening trade and investment ties, increasing defense cooperation, education and cultural linkages, and growing people-to-people interaction. Our strategic partnership is responding well to the significant transformation in our region and to the development aspirations of our two people. Prime Minister and I have had substantive discussions on measures to give greater content and depth to our relations. I am extremely satisfied with our discussions. I have no doubt that our understandings, as reflected also in the agreements that have just been signed, herald a phase of more intense and structured cooperation in diverse fields between our two countries. In our talks earlier, we have agreed to hold annual meetings at the summit level, either bilaterally or during multilateral events. We have also agreed to launch a minister-level dialogue on energy security, establish a water technology partnership, and start negotiation for an agreement on transfer of sentenced persons. As you are aware, under Prime Minister Gillard, the Australian Labor Party has articulated a new policy on uranium sales to India. This is recognition of India's energy needs as well as of our record and credentials. And I have expressed to the Prime Minister India's appreciation of this development and her role in bringing it about. We have agreed to begin negotiations for an agreement on civil nuclear energy cooperation, which will precede actual cooperation. There is great potential to further strengthen India-Australia bilateral trade and investment relations, which continue to show robust growth. Our bilateral trade in goods was US $17.4 billion in fiscal 2011-12, while India's investment in Australia are at almost $11 billion US. Our negotiators are working towards a comprehensive economic partnership agreement which will further facilitate trade and investment and make them more broad-based and sustainable. We are also developing wide-ranging cooperation in defense and security-related issues, including the fight against terrorism, in all of which we regard Australia as a very important partner. Prime Minister Gillard yesterday inaugurated the Australian Festival in India. Culture is an excellent medium to bring our two countries closer together. We are establishing ICCR chairs of Indian studies at 5 Australian universities. I have also conveyed to the Prime Minister our appreciation of the steps being taken by the Australian governments to address the issues affecting Indian students in Australia, which have had a salutary effect. This visit by Her Excellency, the Prime Minister of Australia, ladies and gentlemen, is bound to open a new chapter in India-Australia relations. we look forward to further strengthening, deepening and widening of these relations. I thank you.
I now request the Prime Minister of Australia to make her media statement.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Singh. It's a great pleasure to be with you in your nation, and I want to thank you and thank the Indian government and the people for the warmth of the welcome that we've received and the very great honour of this state visit. Yesterday, Prime Minister Singh, I was privileged to see some of the human dimensions of the relationships between our two countries. I was able to see things like how sport and education are changing the lives of Indian children. I was able to see how our scientific communities are working together to fight the scourge of malaria. And last night I was very privileged to see world-class musicians from both our countries perform at last night's Ozfest opening against the backdrop of an amazing light show, and a number of us enjoyed that very much last night. The people-to-people links between our two countries are the fastest growing element of our bilateral relationship. Today, Prime Minister, I am very pleased that we have been able to have such productive discussions. I think the positive and strong state of our bilateral relationship was obvious from the discussions we had. There is a growing convergence of our economic and strategic interests. That is obvious too. And so was the goodwill and the desire to do more to build our strategic partnership. As I said a little bit earlier today when I was speaking to our business communities, I am committed to building a productive and enduring partnership with India, one which stands in the first rank of countries which matter to our nation, to Australia. I am therefore delighted, Prime Minister Singh, that you and I have been able to agree on a number of very concrete measures that will help forge that relationship for the future. I'm pleased we've been able to agree that Australian and Indian leaders should meet formally each year, either in each other's country, as we are doing now, or in the margins of regional or global bodies in which we share membership, such as the G20 or the East Asia Summit. These meetings will help provide high-level oversight of our strategic partnership and continue its momentum. Prime Minister, I'm also very pleased we've been able to meet on a number of occasions over the past 2 years. I think it is important that today we have decided to formalise that arrangement. I'm pleased that we were able to agree that we will commence negotiations on a bilateral civil nuclear cooperation agreement in the near future. This is something that is personally important to me, given the change in my party's policy and the government's policy on this matter. In addition, I'm pleased that we've been able to add to the architecture of our relationship by agreeing to a new energy security dialogue between our respective ministers and a water technology partnership to focus on the issue of water management, which is vital to both of our countries. I'm pleased we were able to discuss our growing economic relationship and that we agreed on the importance of making progress in our comprehensive and high-quality bilateral free trade agreement. I'm also pleased we've had a good discussion about working together regionally and globally. This is important to us as we join each other in forums such as the G20 and the East Asia Summit. And as the Chair and Vice Chair of the Indian Ocean Regional Cooperation Forum, I believe we will have the opportunity to continue to work together to strengthen Indian Ocean cooperation. So, Prime Minister Singh, thank you very much for your hospitality and for the very productive discussions that we have had today. I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you as we take this strategic partnership between our two countries into this Asian century. Thank you very much.
With that, we come to the end of this event. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.